What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to our season 2 of the Dawgcast. We got a lot of shout outs to bring it back, and hopefully we'll bring some fun content for you guys this season. But excited to kick it off. We got usual suspects, obviously myself as the host, but we brought back Wade. We were debating on bringing him back, and his contract got a little weighty for us, but we brought back Wade. And we were able to parlay at least a trial run with our boy Marty, the meme master himself. So
let's do it.
Yeah, boys. Thoughts just kicking off, jumping in. What are we feeling? Excitement, nervousness? I know it's been a long time coming. It feels like it takes forever to get through the off season on these seasons.
Yeah, I mean, I never had an off season, so I'm anxiously waiting to finally play as a player and not a sub. So I think, Logan, you said it went up on us fast that it's came by, but I think it's been like stuck in the mud for me, just waiting for the season to start. And then obviously having a baby throws a wrench in there too that sped things up. So, but yeah, I'm stoked for this week.
I'm surprised you let Jess. I'm surprised you let Jess have the baby this close to the season.
Yeah, distractions. But I think most of the group is ready. Like pretty much everybody I've talked to is super excited. And obviously you see a lot of what used to be Fridays, now Wednesdays, set partners. You have just teams mixing in and out, really trying to get their strategy going. So it's been fun to see. And I'm looking forward to seeing, how it all plays out, because if you look at last season's results, a lot of that did not go how any of us thought at the beginning of the year. So I'm sure you guys have your favorites right now, or people you think might be, outmatched a little bit. And when it's all said and done, we might have another Tony Onen somehow winning a championship after going 0-6 in the final, which nobody knows how that happened.
That's got to be, I don't know, between that team going completely undefeated for the season and a win in a week where a player went completely winless. I don't know which feat is more impressive, but they have both of those. So, but yeah, I think it's cool too. We have the spinoff league too, and would love to even bring in some content this season from our Challenger League. I know there's a lot of characters in that group too, and I think that group's going to be super competitive. So we can dive into that too from time to time throughout the season and check in on that crew and how it's going and what teams are maybe running away with it there. But this season, just kind of for everybody listening, we wanted to do something a little bit different than we've done in the past. Obviously, Wade and I are on the same team, so just having it be a pick'em of like our opinions would be a little bit weird. But we wanted to lean in, and some of the feedback that we got for content was, more player interviews and things like that. So want to kind of take everybody behind the scenes, just some strategy. If there's drama, we can jump into things like that would be exciting. And then, as you guys have feedback, as you guys come up with ideas, we're always open to, continuing to evolve what we're doing here. But we'll play a little bit with some pick'ems when we have guests on, but I want to focus a little bit more on interviews. Today we're going to jump into just kind of thoughts on the teams that were pulled together, the draft strategy, specifically these two captains that I have on today, and then just some things that we're potentially looking at this season, certain players to watch out for, and our thoughts and opinions on that. But before we jump into just kind of the player specific stuff and kind of watch lists that we've put together, wanted to specifically ask, when it comes to draft strategy, Martin, have you been a captain every season? Or is this
every season since season 1, yeah. And I've tried every draft strategy under the sun, going stars and scrubs, like going super top heavy and just foregoing the last tier, trying to do everything in between. So yeah. For me this season was pretty straightforward. So I don't know how much people know, but the draft order was actually selected via like captain's round robin. But it wasn't just where if you finish first, you get the first pick. If you finish second, you get the second pick. You got to pick where you wanted your draft selection to be. So Joey, I think, finished first and he just picked first. But like Wade got second, I think, and he picked like third or fourth, right? So, or did you win it?
Yeah, I want it.
So
I
he
want it.
wanted and he picked third or fourth, but Joey was just like, I'll just take the first pick, right? So different strategies in that and of itself. And so for me, when I went into it, I was like, if I have the choice to make my pick, I would choose a 4 or 5, the fourth or fifth pick instead of the first or the last. And I actually got second to last, I think, in that captain's round robin, and just so happened to get the fifth pick. So it actually was right in line with where I wanted to be. So I got a little bit lucky there. But the reason why I liked that fifth pick was we had 2 tier 1s that were drafting in front of me, so they couldn't pick another tier 1. Everybody knew Wade was going to pick Adam out of the tier 1, and then at that point, I knew the only two remaining, like there was 2 remaining players that I like was happy with either one was Mac and Luke, obviously, right? And so I was like, I'll grab one of those two, and I'll be happy as can be. And so for me, once who was in front of me. So I guess Chris drafted Mac that left Luke on the board. Gladly take him. I mean, highest rated duper in the group, and I think everybody can agree on his day on. He's the best player there. So thrilled with that. And then on the comeback, obviously, Robbie, when he's there, I got to take him. Mister always shows up on time, never misses a day. Super reliable. So I know I got myself in hot waters with that, but I believe in him. And then on the bring back, honestly, Kyle was just to pull the team together because I figured we all have a very similar strategy and play style where we want to get to the net. We can play slow, and Kyle is just so freaking good when he's at the net that I personally think, not trying to be biased, but as far as like net game goes, I don't think there's another team that compares to our group. Now we have other things where we're not as strong, right? Like Wade's team is going to be able to play way faster than us and stuff like that. But yeah, I brought that whole team together saying we got a very clear strategy, which is get to the net, dink him to death, death by 1,000 cuts, and then eventually, hopefully, one of you gets impatient and we pull the trigger on it.
Yeah. Well, and there was a little bit of drama because your initial plan to get your day one, your A1 since day one,
Well, yeah,
got
got
snatched
sniped
up.
2 picks in front of me by Joey, and so that pulled a wrench into things because, yeah, I thought we had a gentleman's agreement that Wade does get to pick Ron and Adam. I figured Joey gets his brother, things like that, and Joey just said, "No, screw you, I'll pick Abrigo," and then named him after him too, just to rub it in.
Yeah, it's interesting the forecast. Obviously, I'm not a captain this season. Captained 3 times, just running all the like pre-draft scenarios, and you try to like anticipate as much as possible, like what other teams are going to do, what other captains are going to do, and then try to stage like when you're picking each tier based off of what you think other people are going to do. And then every season, without a doubt, somebody does something that
Throws a wrench
you
into
don't
it.
expect, and then blows up your whole draft board. Feel like the Raiders just making off the cuff picks with no plan sometimes if you get blown up. But yeah, Abrigo got snatched up by Joey. But I would also make the argument, even looking at your team and the way that you guys are set up, that Kyle might fit the style of play that you guys are
All
as a
things being
whole.
equal, I do think we're probably a stronger team with Kyle, as much as I love Abrigo. But also, there's always that, like you have your ride and dies. You have people that you want to
Totally.
just ride with. Like Wade knows Ron is not the best player in the world, but he's just gonna bring him along every single time, no matter what, right? So
Our ongoing theme, we got to continue in season 2 that there's a shot at Ron in every episode. So
always, always.
keep a fire in his little belly. Speaking of Ron, and just keeping a fire. Wade, help me understand. You might have had the like least surprising draft of all the captains, as far as if somebody, probably easiest for anybody to pick who you were going to draft. Maybe, I guess, depending with a little bit of a wild card there in the 4 spot. But help me understand. I think you took it maybe a little less about pickleball based on our conversation. So walk me through kind of how you thought about this, especially never playing in the league before and coming in as first season as a captain.
Yeah. Well, I think I tried to set it up so I could have it be a no-brainer by winning the captain's round robin. I think if I don't win that, or I fall to maybe the 5th pick or something, then Adam probably would have been off the board. I would assume, maybe not. But yeah, I just wanted to control what I could control, and so tried to ball out and pick strategically of where I thought I know I can get Adam and I know I can get Ron. And yeah, I think Is Adam the highest tier one? No. But I've played a lot of pickleball with Adam. Obviously, we're good friends. We're both Seahawks. I went with chemistry a lot more so than I could have picked Mac. I could have picked Luke. I could have picked anybody. But I also I think me being ultra competitive, I want to beat better people too. Like, do I want Mac on my team? Like, sure. Like him and I are going to play in a tournament, but I actually take more satisfaction than in beating Mac or beating Luke. So yeah, I went ride or die. I went with my boys. I've played more pickleball with Ron than anybody in Junkyard, so obviously I'm going to go with that. And him and I have been, I think, playing really well together as a team. He likes to say Venus and Serena. I think we know who's Venus in that aspect. But so yeah, I went with that, and then yeah, maybe a wild card in the four spot. There was a lot. The fours were stacked. Like Castleton was still there when I picked. Little Sin was still there when I picked, but um, and I don't know Mark as well as I know like Little Sin and I know you, and I just like I said, I went ride or die. I went with my boys. If I'm gonna win, I want it to be with my boys, and if I'm gonna lose, I want it to be with my boys. So that was my strategy. Nothing crazy, pretty chalk on paper, but I think I only got to do that because I set myself up in the round robin.
Yeah. Yeah, subtle flex there. You swiped the round robin in a pretty competitive field there. So and then set yourself up to just be able to write down and turn in your card from the first pick. But yeah, I think we talk about it every season. Chemistry, right? And that is more important than drafting maybe the best player in every tier. We've seen teams that have like the most stacked duper setup from top to bottom finish terribly at the end of the season. And then we've seen, very surprising, right? I'd put Kitchen Crashers in that field last season of teams that maybe on paper, right? Not a lot there that people saw to say, hey, that was going to be the team this year. And they absolutely knocked it out of the park. And ultimately, when you look back, it was like every pairing just really built good chemistry as they led up into the season. And then throughout the season, they were able to, prevail against teams that I would argue maybe are more talented many times. And they just were able to choke them out and beat those teams. So shout out to them. Shout out to both of you guys just sharing a little bit behind the curtains on your draft strategy. I think both of you guys did a really good job on just, having a plan leading into the draft and then going and executing. But thinking about that, and obviously I know we've gotten a lot of Martin's funny commentary on the teams and the way they're set up, right? The shots and things like that. I think, probably every team has some glaring strengths and weaknesses based on how it's set up. We said this last season, but it looks very competitive the way it's set up. I'm sure we're going to look back at the end of the season. There's going to be a team that is not competitive, and there's going to be a team that jumps out. But that being said, when we think about the Kitchen Crashers, who I just talked about, right, and that team almost and probably should have. I don't know why they didn't decide to reassemble. I think everything was there if they wanted to reassemble, but it sounded like Trevor wanted.
Two of them are captains.
What was that?
Trevor and Jeff were both captains, so they couldn't fully reassemble.
True, not a full reassembly, but it seemed like there was a lot of opportunity, especially swapping Jeff and Brian, knowing that Brian and Trevor are really good friends. So it'll be interesting to see how that team pulls together. But we've got the dynasty has split up. When you guys look at the teams this season, is there a team that maybe you're not picking to go undefeated or anything like that, or maybe not even picking as a favorite, but that could surprise you maybe as on paper, not necessarily the most talented team, but it wouldn't surprise you if they had more chemistry than expected and made a run this season? I'll start with you, Marty.
Interesting kind of thing to see how it plays out with Kitchen Chaos, right? So Jeff famously forewent his tier 1 player in order to draft Christian and Joseph, which we all know can be tier 1 any day of the week. But on paper, they were both tier 2 players, right? And so he said, I'm going to choose chemistry and the right player archetype over just, bringing the best player by duper kind of thing. And then obviously Mark, he was a 2 last season, right? And Wade said when Mark was there at the 4, like he should not be a 4 ever. So I think on paper they're not supposed to be good because they just went a number 1, which is already like a questionable strategy. But I mean, I think every single person there, Joseph, obviously he won a title. Jeff has won a title. Christian, we know on any given day can be the best player in Junkyard. So
Christian's
like,
got 2, I think. Christian's
yeah.
got 2 titles.
So like that team on paper shouldn't be crushing it that much. And funny enough, they were our preseason matchup. We only played one preseason matchup, and I mean, like we wiped the floor with them. But it tells me they probably just didn't show their best stuff just yet. But yeah, they wouldn't surprise me if they make a run despite the setup being at a disadvantage, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could make the argument. It's crazy to me that Mark was, I believe, the last pick, right?
Pick
Like,
of the
was
draft,
he
yeah.
Yeah,
Mr.
Jeff was the
Relevant
last pick. So yeah, that
and
would
probably the highest rated player, or, maybe like have shown the highest level of play of any of the 4s. So
I think, yeah,
interesting.
part of that, Mark, I think he had his injury. He hadn't been playing a bunch. Come draft time, was he going to stay? But now, obviously, yeah, Mark's been kicking ass and he's healthy. And, looks like Jeff got a steal as Mr. Irrelevant right there. So,
Yeah.
I think a team that not on paper, it's kind of the same thing, isn't like, wow, they're probably going to be dominant, is Team 7. Logan, Rivera, Michael Hale, and Little Sin. I feel like it's not like they're top heavy and lacking the bottom, or they're bottom heavy lacking top. I feel like they're all really just sound, solid players. And that's a team that it wouldn't surprise me if they went on a run. Also, wouldn't surprise me if they didn't go on a run. But I think Rivera, obviously in Martin's meme, was a used to be top tier 1 player and hasn't been himself lately, but he's on the up and up, unlike the Niners. And then Little Sin rounding out the bottom is very much like a Mark. I think like a really, really strong 4. And we've seen in the league when you have your 4 play really strong, good things happen. So that's another team that on paper you're not like glazing over, but could easily bust out some wins.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I had them pegged. I think Michael Hale specifically, leading up to the draft and things like that. I just seen him take his game to another level. We all have ups and down days. I think he's had some high and low days, but I've seen him really, and I think part of that's probably just continue to develop confidence in this group and understand everybody else's play styles and pick up, strengths and weaknesses. Because I think with every player, you've got kind of 2 skill sets, right? You have their physical skill set, but then you have the acumen, right, in their IQ. Some are a lot higher in their pickleball IQ and understanding of strategy, right, that can bode well for team strategy, and some are a lot higher in the physical skill set and have zero strategy, just see ball, hit ball, but they hit the ball really well, right? And so when you get a player that starts to match, or you can see like, hey, they're really putting it together on both ends. I think that's what makes players really start to rise to the top here. And I feel like Michael is coming into that spot where, you're starting to see both of those come to a really high level. And hey, he's got an intention with every shot, something I think, both of you guys do very well, right? Hey, they know what they're trying to do and they're executing it at a high level. And then the shots themselves are just quality. They're hard to defend against, a lot of spin, things like that. So Michael,
I think a big testament to Michael Hale too is he definitely felt the junkyard knock when he came in, right? He came in as like a 4.445, immediately plummeted down to like a 4.0, 4.1 or something along those lines, and was kind of in over his head. But really quickly after that, started adjusting to, I think most of us would happily take him as a 2, right? He's a 3 that could very easily pass as a 2, no problem at all. And I agree, like he was somebody that about a month ago I talked to somebody that was like, I don't play with Hale all that much, but I played with him a bunch that morning for whatever reason, and I was really impressed with how his game has developed. So yeah, he took that, initial junkyard knock and just turned around, in his favor, and has been crushing it since.
Yeah. I couldn't have said it better. I think it'll be good to see. And I think whenever you can stack a team that has a few guys like that are really improving or on the up and up, you set yourself up to be in a spot where at the end of the season feeling like, oh, we've got 2-1s, we've got 2-2s, right? Or it feels like we get to that point where teams just are really top heavy because everybody in the group has ascended. Top heavy might not be the right word, but you know what I mean. Just hey, that everybody's kind of risen levels above where they were drafted, which I think is just a recipe for success. And you kind of have to have that in order to win a championship. Now with 8 teams, like we saw, putting together the eligible draft board was insane this season. Obviously, Martin, you were behind the scenes too on pulling that together. It was almost overwhelming to look at, like, and try to delineate, like, oh, this person's this tier. Or, like, I think that there were some original shakeouts where, like, Montoya was like a tier 3 or something crazy like that, and we're like, what is going on? But I think with that wide of a group now, we're going to see a lot of parity within tiers, right? The difference between a tier 4 and a tier 2, maybe from a duper gap might be large or something to point at. But when you look at their play style and you look at their performance on the court, could really be pretty tight, which I think is going to push even more pressure on teams finding chemistry early in the season and really figuring out how to work best together. Some of these teams are going to be set up for success. Martin, I think you've always leaned into, hey, I'm going to draft guys that I've played well with and that, fit my game and piece everything around. And you're thinking really, intelligently about what those pairings are going to look like. Wade, you did the same thing, obviously, like thinking through, like, hey, here are guys that I like to play with and enjoy playing with. But as we look at the teams, is there a team, and this is not necessarily a shot, but maybe just a notice of, like, hey, from my vantage point or my perspective, has the largest hill to climb when it comes to how are these pieces going to fit together?
So for me, I think you can go a couple different ways, right? So for me, I'm really, really curious to see how the Honey Badger Ballers play together, because I don't think, number one, Montoya hasn't been around all that much, so he hasn't just built a lot of chemistry with anybody. But outside of Preston and Kuhn, who were on a league team together last year, Preston and Brad don't play together all that much from what I can tell. Brad and Kuhn don't play together all that much. So it's one of those where, at least on paper, there's not a ton of chemistry to start with. And then you add something like a Montoya who just hasn't been around all that much. Like, that could go sideways really quick. Then again, we know Montoya when he's on. We know Preston when he's on. I mean, Kuhn obviously crushed it as a 4 last year. Like, they have all the upside in the world. It's just, I feel like if I had to put my money on somebody underwhelming as compared to what they could get to, it would probably be that, purely for that reason, that there's just not a lot of consistency right now and continuity within the team.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you caught this, but this is actually the second place team from last season swapping Decker for Montoya. So you've got Preston, Brad, and Kuhn were all the...
Oh, but Brad was never there, remember?
He was there half the time. There half the time.
Okay, that's why I don't remember it, because the whole, Drew thing, that was when Brad was not there.
Yeah. We don't talk about that scenario anymore. No. But yeah, that's an interesting, and no shot to Decker at all. But Montoya, I think, would be an upgrade over most people in this league if you swapped them out from the previous team to put in Montoya, at least from a ceiling perspective, right? Like, day-to-day consistency can be a completely other thing and another kind of dynamic to weigh when we're looking at the performance or potential performance of these teams. But Montoya, from when he's playing on, he plays reindeer
in a blender for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, you own a pickleball shop, you talk, you walk, you see pickleball 24/7. I think the expectation is pretty high, Montoya, that you're going to perform.
And he's won, was he 2 seasons ago? They won?
Yeah, he won once. Yep.
Yeah. So
yeah,
he has what it takes. And that's why I'm saying, if they underperform, they would be the surprise team to me to say they should have been a lot better, just looking at all the players as individuals. But I just see that there could be a recipe for disaster there.
I think my question mark team is is the Brigo Amigos. I think obviously Joey and James have played together, but I don't think, John hasn't played a lot with James. There's no way Abrigo has played a lot with James unless they've been doing like a crazy amount of team practices. John, when he's on, he's on. He's been off a little bit, but I just think maybe they're lacking chemistry on paper just because throwing James in there, who's newer to the junkyard, and Abrigo, who hasn't been playing. So obviously, Joey can hold down that one spot and take over games if his partner is lacking. But I think that's the question mark team to me is like I don't know. Like it's another one where they could just dominate people, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they, only won one or two matches all season.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, somewhat surprising. Like I hear your logic. I think when I think of all their play styles and even how like some of them have been playing lately, I think it's easy for me to see how it comes together. But I think you bring up good points on everybody of like there's some question marks that could lead you to think like, hey, this may be an uphill battle. Anytime you get brothers on a team, right? I think it adds a level of chemistry that, we don't see. We're fortunate to not have to see Logan and Luke on the same team. I think that would have been a problem. But fortunately, they were both tier ones. But yeah, anytime you get brothers, I think there's no telling how, they're communicating, that different level of communication, different level of like understanding it, just the temperament of each other. So, but yeah, I think interesting pick there. Mine, and I'll go out on a ledge too. I won't pick all these categories, but like one of the ones that I've been interested to see and think is one of those like on paper, all the talent in the world. They're the only team that got 2-1s, right? We're playing them this week, so I don't want to like I'm not trying to give anybody bulletin board material as far as saying they have an uphill battle, but I think it is interesting to see how Coombs' team pulled together, and you've got Marcus and Kit himself, right, Chris? And then Junk, who all kind of come from different walks within the junkyard groups. Obviously, Chris and Junk are pretty close, but everybody's kind of been in different silos, if you will, within junkyard, different play styles. I don't think anybody wants to see like an on-kit drive on plus a Marcus poach. Like that's probably the scariest play setup in the group. But I am curious to see like who's going to be the vocal leader of this group. Is it Coombs? Is it one of those ones where everybody on this team is either been a captain or is the captain this season besides Junk? So you got 3 guys that have captained a team before. What's that dynamic going to look like in between games, right? We've all been in that spot where you lose back-to-back games, right? You get swept in a round and you have to rally the crew. Like that's something that you don't see on paper, but like who's going to rally the crew? Who's going to bring the strategy back? A lot of guys can do it on this team. I'm just curious to see how it will pull together. I'm sure this team will be successful, but I am curious to see like what does the dynamic look like? Who's going to stack, who's not going to stack, where are they going to stack? Think this team, like I said, has all the potential in the world, but some really unique pairings and chemistry when I look at it.
I think they have a crazy amount of upside. Like their strategy is going to be going fast, right? Matt can drive, Ankit can drive, Chris can drive. Chris is going to speed up shit he shouldn't. Ankit is going to speed up shit he and just hope that their hands are then quicker, right? Yeah. And so that's also where Junk is the most comfortable, right? If Junk has a weakness, we all know he doesn't want to play slow. He doesn't want to dink. Like he wants to go fast. So all of a sudden you insert Junk into that crew of 3 that can, in the same way that I say, I think our team can play slow the best in the league. I think those guys can play fast the best. And you insert Junk into that to hopefully eliminate some of those, weaker aspects of his game. Yeah, they would be my pick for like, if I had to put my money on things, if everything goes right, what team can go undefeated? Like last season's Kitchen Crasher. I think it's these guys. But yeah, we've seen Ankit just 3 Wednesdays in a row go 0-6, 0-6, 0-6 when it wasn't clicking, right? We've seen Junk go 0-6 in an elimination matchup 2 seasons ago to get his team eliminated from the league. So like, there's a lot.
We've seen Junk. I mean, Junk has quietly or not so quietly strung together some really sick days in the last month or two where he's gone undefeated or where he's gone 5-1 and sent Alina the text message, the infamous text message that gets left on red. But I think he's
and take that home.
he's somebody that, like, when I think about and I'm not just pumping up a homie, like when I think about somebody who's like, hey, they've had some flashes lately of playing well above their level. It may not look the same as like, hey, when a Mac is playing well or when when you guys are playing well, like, but he's had some stretches where he's like taking over games, right? And so you love to see that from your four, like, because that's one of those things. It's like, hey, what role is the four playing on our team? Are they just hey, you're the setup guy, stay in this corner, don't make mistakes, and make sure that the playmakers get the ball? But I look at this landscape of fours, and I look at Junk as somebody who he's got the ability to go and take over the game, right? And maybe the better player can play a pocket role at different stretches, and it's beneficial for the team. So I don't know. I agree with you though. Like, I think if all things go well, this team easily could pull a Kitchen Crashers, if we will, and flip things around. So I should say flip things around, but you know what I mean.
I think it definitely has like Kitchen Crasher feel. Like if you take out Coombs and Junk in terms of chemistry, and Marcus obviously can be on the court with anybody, but Marcus and Ankit don't play a lot together. Marcus and Coombs don't play a lot together. He doesn't play a lot with Junk. Vice versa, you go round and round, they all haven't really played a lot together. So it does have like that, I feel like that Kitchen Crashers feel. But like Martin said, they could definitely string together a run once they, maybe it takes a week or two to figure it out, or maybe it's good right out the gate. But
hopefully it takes at least 1 week to figure it out. That's my hope.
At least 1 week. Yeah.
I'm not counting on it, but hoping it takes at least exactly 1 week to figure it out. But yeah, I think a lot of promise here. It's hard even looking through this. Like, you could even make the argument that the Capital Crushers is the next Kitchen Crashers, right? Like with the same, with Trevor, Stan, Brian, and Tony, right? Like you have the two from Kitchen Crashers, and then you have Brian and Stan coming into that team, right? Like, some very interesting pairings and chemistries to work out that, maybe on paper is like, hey, there's not a ton of chemistry across this team. There's some, legacy relationships there too. But if they pull it together and just crush everybody, it wouldn't be surprising. So there's a lot of like potential Kitchen Crashers, but I think Kitchen Crashers season last season is really opened everybody's eyes to like not judging a book by its cover in the preseason, because anything can happen, as we've seen. I know we're running long on time here, so I want to get to just a couple more questions for you guys, and then we'll wrap. But when we think about a team, and both of you guys are very confident, right? Two of the more confident guys in our group that always pick your squad ride or die. So removing your own squads from consideration, if you had to pick a favorite coming in of like, hey, this is the team that I've got start on my schedule as they just look stacked top to bottom, and going to present the biggest challenge, as much as you'd be willing to share, like who would that team be for each of you guys?
I think for me, it would be Chris's team for the reasons we just pointed out, that if they go fast, I mean, like, and they're clicking and their hands on point, like, just so much upside there. Because even Chris, like, again, Ankit is a 1, but now playing as a 2. Mac, obviously, as good as it gets. Chris, we all know when he's on, like, not just a 2, but can play at a 1 level. And then, like we talked about, Junk being a 4, not only has he been playing very well, but I really do think there's a good bit to say about their play style eliminating kind of his weakness and not allowing other teams to play slow and taking advantage of it. Now, of course, people are going to try to force it on them. But if they can find a way to go fast and let Junk really, rip it where he's comfortable at, like, I'm happy we don't face those guys week 1. Like honestly, like if I could have avoided any team week 1, it would have been those guys. So like you
Didn't you
guys are
make
in
the
for it.
schedule, Martin?
I
Wasn't that
did
you that
not.
put the
I did
schedule
not.
together?
But yeah, like I'm very happy we avoided those guys in week 1. That's for sure.
Yeah. Which begs the question of, when do you want to face the best teams? Do you want to face them in the beginning of the season? Do you
I
want to
would
face
love
them
to
at the end
face
of
them
the
at the end
season?
of the season, like just so that way, number one, hopefully you found your groove already. But number two, maybe there is things that other teams have exposed that you're not thinking of, right? Where you say, hey, maybe the way to attack it is
Yeah.
doing XYZ. I mean, that's the whole thing why the Chiefs, right? Like they were so successful until people started running too high on them and didn't allow the deep ball anymore, and all of a sudden everybody's running it against them. So yeah, I would always prefer the easy matchups to start and just finish on a bang at the very end and hopefully see what you can take away from all the other matchups before that.
Yeah. Well, and then you have teams like the Seahawks, right? That start off like, I would argue that that's when you wanted to play the Seahawks, was earlier in the season. They looked a little more mortal. Now they look,
Yeah.
bulletproof. It seems, right. So we'll see what happens this weekend. And but yeah, there's two kind of walks there, and I guess it just depends on a start and finish. But I love the just kind of angle of like, hey, we're building playbooks on every team. The more data I can throw in the playbook, and the more I can understand about how to beat teams. And we have the interesting angle now of there's film on every team very easily accessed now. So with our new camera setup, so we'll see who's going to become junkies this season, and just grinding tape and watching things and looking for nuggets. But yeah, great
And
pick.
because the league is so deep now, like that, the fours are really good. It's not what it used to be, where it's just ruthlessly hammer the four,
Yeah,
like just target the four no matter what. Like that's the only strategy going into it. You don't really have that anymore, right? Like you got to pick now on things that maybe the team doesn't like to. Like I said, get those guys to play slow, right? Make us
yeah,
play fast. Make like things like that where you can't just pick on the four anymore like you used to. So there's a lot more strategy involved and a lot more probably varying your game week by week if you really want to be successful. I think that's what's going to be the team that's going to be the best at the end of the year is not the ones that play their game every single week and force it into other people, but are willing to adjust their game based on what's in front of them,
yeah.
including lineups. Like I think I saw Wade go knock Adam to a 3 or something, right? By saying, hey, based on the matchup that I'm seeing, I think that's a more favorable outcome. I think those things are going to go much, much further than just saying, keep the same lineup, but just, I don't know, hammer Junk in your guys' scenario or hammer Logan for the other team, right? Like, I don't think that's going to go very far this season.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I think the team that I have on my watch list is was it Kitchen Chaos, team 8, Christian, Joseph, Jeff, and Mark. I think they are they're not like super top heavy, and they don't have like a low floor. Like Christian and Joseph can both be ones every day, and I think Jeff and Mark can honestly be twos. So I think they're just super consistent team all around. There's not a big glaring weakness on the team. You're not going to go target Mark because he's the 4, or if they put Jeff in the 4. So that's a team that is kind of intimidating on paper, just with how well-rounded they are.
Yeah. I think too, I'll just call my category honorable mentions. I think the Dink Reapers, right? Marty, your team, I think instantly I just thought like, hey, whoever gets Luke, just based on how
Oh
he's
yeah,
come
just
in,
he's so solid, so
he's just
solid. He
come
can
in
cover up a
like,
lot of my mistakes. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like most people come into Junkyard and they take the knock, right? That we always talk about. I know Luke's dabbled before in Junkyard, but I don't think we've seen anybody come to Junkyard and then instantly after coming their duper just starts going up, right? So he's had the Junkyard lift, for lack of a better term, and that's got to come from somewhere, right? So his ability to come play against the best players in Junkyard and play well and have success and beat guys that we've perennially considered, hey, the best in Junkyard, right? Beat the Max, beat the Martys, beat, all of these high performing players pretty consistently. So to get him on a team with somebody who I think, really admire the cerebral aspect of your game, Martin, of like how you understand how to attack teams and then communicating and getting the most out of lower level players. I think automatically puts you guys in a category that is going to be competitive every week, regardless of like what happens. And then not even to mention putting Robbie as a 3 and Kyle as a 4, right? Who both of them are very high floor players that have a lot of weapons, pretty universal tool set. So I put you guys right there as a team to star. And then another one that, we've talked about, again, this is in addition to your guys' picks, but I think Honey Badger Ballers, based on things that we've already talked about, bring Montoya in, who's already won, who also is a floor raiser when it comes to playing with and coaching people up, right? When he's in the right mindset, if he's not chucking paddles across the gym, I think he's got a lot of pickleball knowledge that he can pass down and understand dynamics that, maybe most players are not seeing, that he's going to call out, hey, run this play. Hey, do this. Hey, don't do this. Hey, when you're dinking, make sure that you're getting behind the ball. Those types of things that are little, but really help players like myself who maybe black out a little bit in games and need that, like, hey, dude, you're doing this, or hey, start thinking about this, right? So I think, you put that with a team that's already stacked from a talent perspective. And I look at them and I'm like, if they're all on, like forget about it. So I don't know. There's probably, you could probably make a case for every team here to be that like favorite or starred. But yeah, a lot of ammo, a lot of loaded teams, a lot to watch for.
With their team, like with Brad and Montoya, they both got like super, crafty shots. They go for like low margins, but if they're hitting those low margins, they're hitting them. Then Preston and Kuhn are just like, they can be walls. Obviously, I love playing with Preston, and his game is just like taken to a new level. He can hang with any of the ones on court one. And Kuhn's obviously had 27 lessons in the last couple weeks, so his game has gotten a lot better. So they're super solid. Like they're another team that basically has like 2 1s and 2 2s, I feel like.
Yeah, Kuhn runs a pickleball academy out of his backyard. Yeah. Simply Green Pickleball. But yeah, I think, not enough can be said about just, each team here. Last thing I want to ask you guys, my last question is, when we think about like either in terms of like, I don't want it to be as straightforward as like, who do you think the MVP might be right this season? But when we think about just the whole picture of maybe it's a bounce back player or a player that you're interested in seeing or spotlight. We've already talked about a few players here intermittently, but a player, when you look at these rosters, how the teams are assembled, that you've got your eye on maybe as somebody who you could see just having a lot of success or catch people from surprise or by surprise, I should say, is my question. And I'll give you guys, I didn't prime you guys with these questions, so I'm happy to go first and just kind of spotlight one. And then would love just kind of picks from each of you. But when I look through and I know we've already talked about him a little bit here, but when I look through like the one player that I'm looking at, that I'm like, hey, this guy could have a wildly successful season and easily be the next Joseph or Jeff, right, from last season, is Mark. And we talked about him, very high floor guy, but I think he's going to complement everybody on his team really well, which I think is another key piece to that formula. Is like, you can be the best player, but if your game doesn't work well with other players on your team, you can only go so far. So when I think about chemistry and potential skill level, where they were drafted, I wouldn't be surprised if Mark is the next Jeff, right? Who we look back and just say, hey, they led in every statistical category. And it wasn't surprising.
So for me, and this is not being biased because he's on my team, but I really, really think that Kyle, just because he was a 2 last season to start, and so he has that upside in him. But number 2, the times I've played with him recently, like he's just been so solid to the point that I couldn't say like I'm playing way better than him, or if we're like him and I beat Joey and John, right? They're 1-2 versus a 2 and a 4, and I think the reason why is Kyle, I think, is the difference between like a Kyle and like Mac or Luke or Adam or those guys is Kyle's not going to take over a game, right? He's not going to come crashing and like completely obliterate you by themselves. But if he has a good partner that he knows he doesn't need to be Superman, he is just so solid. Like defensively, offensively, when he trusts his partner being there to back him up. And I've really noticed that there's a big discrepancy between him playing random like Wednesday games with just anybody and he doesn't perform super well versus set partner games with us, or when we did our scrimmage game or whatever, when he has the players around him that he trusts and that suit his game well. Like he's so freaking good. And that even went back to last year when we did the Friday cash game for a while. One of the times that we won was because Kyle was just on with every single player that he played with.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about him, and I think he's going to surprise a lot of people this year. Like as a 4, you're supposed to win 2 games to help your team. You're not supposed to win 3 because of the David Goliath, right? The rest is up for grabs. I think he's going to have way more 4 or 5 win weeks than he's going to have 2 win weeks. Like I feel very confident in that.
Yeah. Yeah. If your 4 can have a positive point differential or win differential record every game, I think you're going to
go such
be in
a
a
long
good
way.
spot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, this makes me want to vomit, like glazing up 2 Niners. But I think my pick would be Rivera, to have a good, more like a bounce back. Like Rivera was super solid from what I saw all last season until I think like the last couple weeks it didn't go super well. I think they lost like the last 3 games in a row or something
Too
like
many
that.
victory beers for Rivera.
Yeah, but we've all seen like there's not many people that can like put people in a blender like he can. He hits these super crafty shots that just you get past or it goes behind you. And I think he just has a super high ceiling. Obviously, we've seen his floor is a little lower than maybe we thought, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Rivera have a pretty kick-ass season.
Yeah.
With his fellow Niner.
Rivera probably has the biggest delta of anybody in the group. That like, I mean, he's had some rough days where you're like, who is this guy? But then he also has days where you're like, shit, I can't do anything about it. Like he's just cooking me.
Yeah. Yeah. Whenever we have those guys like in a slump, right? Or for lack of a better term, in a slump, it's kind of dangerous because they can slide into teams at a lower tier right at draft time, right? Like where you get to like kind of
Rivera was almost a 3.
Yeah, that would have been we would have vetoed that. Yeah, we would have vetoed that.
So
yeah. Well, I love the commentary here. I think that we'll continue to evolve. We'll check back on kind of preseason picks and conversations, see what storylines may be held and carry through. And you guys get to say like, hey, I saw that from the jump. And then maybe, we'll keep tabs on things that are surprising us or maybe not going as we initially thought. But ultimately, super excited for the season to kick off, super excited to have a lot of fun, see what the guys do. And then we'll also add a little bit more next week on the Challenger League and just some things to watch for what we think about some of those teams. But appreciate you guys. As always, thanks everybody who's listened this far in. Send us your feedback, send us ideas, send those all to Wade. He's the one writing those down. He doesn't work right now. So we appreciate you guys. Thanks for spending time with us.
all right. Later.
Good luck this season.